사람들은 누구나 오늘보다 더 나은 미래를 원합니다.
Whoever they are, people want a better future than what they have now.
오늘 지금보다 더 나은 미래를 만들려면
But in order to make a future that is better than right now,
설계도를 바꿔야 됩니다.
then you have to change the blueprint.
마음의 마인드를 바꿔야 된다.
It means that you have to change the mind that is of the heart.
The wounds of the heart and the social problems. Why are we getting the wounds of the heart and the social problems happening? As I mentioned, also in Kenya, as and the COVID-19 is spreading even more, even the suicidal rate is in a steep way, it's really growing around the world. The reason why people are having the wounds in their hearts and also disease in their heart is because, number one, because of social life, and also sometimes friends and the people around us, they also bully us. And sometimes our heart gets wounded or diseased because of a lover. Is there anyone whose heart have ever been wounded because of someone that you love? I hope you're not only thinking about boyfriend and girlfriend, right? Yes, sometimes because of your father, because of your loved ones, your mother, and because of the family members. Also, many times, also the husband and wife, as they live together, and they also wound their hearts one another as well. Also, sometimes for the youth and the children, their hearts also gets wounded because of their parents divorce, or their parents' business failure, and their parents get a disease like cancer, or those kind of things also wounds their heart as well. Then now, when that wounds also becomes more serious, and then those wounds turns into the disease of the heart, then I would like to briefly look into the definition of disease of the heart. What is the disease? We can easily, first of all, think about the disease of the body. The definition is, the term disease broadly refers to any condition that impairs normal function and is therefore associated with dysfunction of a normal homeostasis. So the disease of the body usually is referred to the malfunction of the parts of our body. So when the parts of our body do not function very well, and then our body starts having the disease. So in the same way, disease of the heart is also the same way as the disease of the body. When our heart does not function in the right way, a condition where abnormality occurs in the person's heart that impairs normal thinking and interactions with others. Now that state and the condition is called the disease of the heart. So the physical illness has its own causes. Likewise, illness of the heart is also caused by a superficial and fundamental causes. So people, they don't just get the disease, or their heart don't just get hurt. And there is the fundamental reason why we get the disease of the heart, and also our heart gets hurt. So most of the people now, through other people's words and action, our heart gets hurt, right? Some people, people say that, oh, you look ugly, and then our heart gets also hurt. And some people, they despise you, then our heart gets hurt, right? So when our heart gets hurt, then what do? You start blaming that person and complain towards that person, right? And then what do? We just close our heart. I'm not going to talk to him anymore. I'm not going to talk to her anymore. And then we start to closing our heart. And as we close our heart, what happens? Now there's no conversation with each other. And when there's no conversation, our heart becomes isolated. Now, when our heart becomes isolated and when that condition persists, now from having our heart getting hurt, now turns into the wounds of the heart. Our heart was hurt, and now you leave it alone. You just close your heart. You don't have conversation. You find a solution to solve this problem, and then the heart being hurt turns into the wounds of the heart. Now, when you get the wounds in your heart, and when this also persists, and if you leave it alone, most of the people at this stage, they leave it alone because they don't understand about the world of the heart. I mean, when our body is hurt, we know how to go to the doctor and see the doctor. But when our heart is hurt, we don't know how to solve this problem because we rarely face this kind of problem, and we were not educated in terms of how to solve the problems of having our heart being hurt. That's why most of the people, when their heart is hurt, they don't know what to do, and this persists. When it persists, then it turns into the wounds of the heart. And also people, they don't know how to solve this problem, and from the wounds of the heart, and now it persists, then the heart is turning into the disease of the heart. Now at this stage, when your heart gets diseased, now people start having depressions and also mental illness as well. So that's why if people understand about the world of the heart and about the mindset, and then they know how to cure their heart when their heart is hurt at the first stage. But most of the people, even in schools, and they don't give us education or teaching about how we can solve these problems. So most of the people, their heart gets hurt, proceeds into wounds of the heart, and later on their heart gets diseased and falls into depression and mental disease as well. Now, when this also stage persists, now finally people, they even decide to commit suicide, and they end up in mental institutions, and something big trouble and the problems happens. Now we would like to take a look. This is only a superficial cause that why this is happening. This is only a cause that is happening just outwardly on the surface. So people, their heart gets hurt because of other people's words and actions, and people, their heart gets wounded, their heart gets diseased, and now people, and they make a decision that they should not make in their life. But this is only a superficial cause why people are falling into these kinds of problems and this kind of suicide. But now, today, I would like to talk about the fundamental cause. Until now, it was only a superficial cause, our heart getting hurt, our heart getting wounded, and our heart getting diseased and causing a big problem. But this was a superficial cause. But there is a fundamental cause why our hearts are getting hurt, why our hearts are getting wounded, why our hearts are getting diseased. What do you think that fundamental cause may be? That fundamental cause that is happening is because of our weak heart. There is the superficial cause to having our heart being hurt and wounded and diseased and even committing suicide. And there is the fundamental cause why our hearts are getting hurt, wounded, and diseased. And that is all because, not only because of other people's words and actions, it is because of our weak heart. When we have a weak heart, and then even by the small words and the small actions of other people, our heart easily gets hurt. Some people, hey, you look ugly. When I hear something like that, to some people, it doesn't really hurt their heart. But to some people, it really hurts their heart and it wounds their heart and even they break down. Why are there such kind of differences? It is because it all depends on the world of our heart and our mindset. When one's heart is weak, then our heart easily breaks down and even continuously proceed into having depression and mental disease. Then what is the cause of having the weak heart? Why are we having the weak heart? Because as we live our life, when the difficulties and the burdens come into our life, we are having the mind to avoid the difficulties and the burden. Everyone also, as you live your life, you have difficulties and the burdens in your life, right? Do you like to face the difficulties and the burdens? Or do you like to run away from the difficulties and the burden? I hope you can ask that question to yourself. Am I the type of a person who like to face the difficulties and the burdens? Or am I the type of person who would like to run away from the difficulties and burden? Everyone, if you learn about this mindset, the world of the mindset and the world of the heart, you will realize how important it is for us to face the difficulties and the burdens. Most of the people, they see the difficulties and the burdens of their life in the negative way. However, these difficulties and the burdens is the one that builds our mind to become a strong mindset. Now, many people, because they don't know about the world of the heart and the world of the mind, when the difficulties and the burdens come, they are only busy trying to avoid the difficulties and the burden. Now, as you continuously live the life of running away from the difficulties and the burden, their heart grows weaker and weaker and weaker. And then later on, as you live your social life at work and with your family and with your wife and husband, now you face that difficulties through the words and through other people's action. Now your heart gets hurt, your heart easily gets wounded, your heart easily gets disease. Then how can we solve this problem and come out of having the weak heart? And by continuously practicing how to collide with the difficulties and the burdens. When you collide with the difficulties and the burdens, instead of running away from the difficulties and the burdens, when you have that mind to collide with the difficulties and the burdens, having that mind to overcome the difficulties and the burden, then your heart becomes stronger and stronger and stronger. But most of the people, because they don't know about this world, when they face the difficulties and the burden, and they only say, this difficulties is too difficult. This problem is too hard. I don't want to collide with these difficulties. I don't want to collide with these burdens. And they are only busy running away from these difficulties and the burden. However, when you continuously collide with the difficulties and the burden and have the mind to overcome it, your heart becomes stronger and stronger and stronger. And there are words spoken by the people with a weak heart. You can see whether you are the one who are having the weak heart, whether you are the ones who are having the strong heart. Those are people who are having the weak heart, and there are specific words that they always say, easily speak with their mouth. And they say, it's impossible. Everyone, why don't you raise your hand if you think this is the word that you often say whenever you see some kind of situation and the problems, right? And there are always people who easily just say, it's impossible. Raise your hand if you usually say, it's impossible. This one is impossible. That one is impossible. Yes, if you usually say these words, it means your heart is weak. And there is also another word and that people usually say, I can't. Can you do this? No, I can't. Can you give presentation? No, I can't. Can you move this from here to there? Oh, I can't. Can you dance? No, I can't. Raise your hand if you often say, I can't. Yes. This is I can't, okay? We have a lot of audience today with some problem with their mind. but welcome. This is the class for you. Yes. And there is also another word that people you also often say if you have the weak mind. It is too difficult. You know, even before they try, whenever they ask you to do something, you know, they start by saying it is too difficult. So those are people who are having the weak mind. They always speak the word in a negative way. It's difficult. I can't. It is impossible. This is too hard. This is impossible. I can't do it. It's impossible. It is difficult. You know, after listening to this lecture, now when you meet with people and have a conversation, you will specifically find those people who are continuously only talking about in a negative way. You never collided with it. You never actually tried to face that burden and difficulties. But even before you try, you said it's impossible. Even before you collide, you say it's difficult. Even before you even think about it, and even before you try, you say it's impossible. Now, those are people who are having the strong mind, instead of saying it is impossible and it is too difficult, it is hard, they first collide with it. But when you collide with it, you can see that there is always the way. Everyone, why don't you repeat after me? There is always the way. Yes. Even when I say, please repeat after me, and there are people saying, oh, it is too difficult to move my mouth. Yes, I think such people has to now to go to hospital. Yes. One more time. I don't want to say which hospital. One more time. There is always the way. Yes, I find the 2-3 people who is still having difficulties moving their mouth. Yes, everyone. Those are people who are having the strong minds. When they collide with difficulties and impossible situation, they always say that, there is always the way. Let me try it. Let me collide it. Let me collide with these difficulties and impossibles. And if I collide it, there must always be the way. All right, so those are people, in order for you to come out of the weak mindset, then what do you have to do? You have to continuously collide with difficulties and the burdens, then your heart also start being built to become stronger and stronger. Everyone, I don't know whether you have seen this movie called Alive. And this movie called Alive was filmed based on the true story. And then this is the story that happened in 1972. In 1972, and there was a very famous rugby team from Uruguay, and they were going to Chile and to have a match, rugby game. But then the airplane crashes into the Andes mountain. And the airplane crashes into the mountain above 3,500 meters above sea level. And it was very cold. And the temperature was going down to even minus 20 degrees Celsius. Minus 20 degrees Celsius is actually more colder than your freezers at home. And so many people, they were freezing to death. Not only that, not only the temperature, they also did not have any food to eat. And so they were having much difficulties to survive because they didn't even have the food. But in the end, 16 people had survived for 72 days. How were they able to survive? And they survived eating the human's flesh. And so only 16 people had survived, but from this airplane crash, and there were people who had died, their colleagues, their teammates. However, because the temperature was so low and that these bodies were all frozen, and later on, these people, in order for them to survive, they decided to eat their colleagues' body, and they were able to survive for 72 days. They've gone through such a big difficulties, and after they had gone through that difficulties, during our IOIF program, we had invited one of the survivor called Antonio. And Mr. Antonio, he gave a lecture and he came down from the stage and we asked him a few questions. we asked him this question. After surviving the 72 days of extreme conditions, how were you able to cope with the difficulties you faced in the society? Everyone, do you know how he had answered? He said, anything I faced from the society was not difficult at all. Now to Mr. Antonio, after he had gone through that extreme condition and difficulties, now after that, when he came back down to the society, now he realized that difficulties are not there because he had already collided with such a great and extreme difficulties that when he returned to the society, now those difficulties that he had faced in the society was uncomparable to the difficulties that he had faced on the Andes Mountain. I don't know whether you have experienced that before or not. After you had experienced some big difficulties in your life, when other small difficulties come onto your life, you realize that that is no longer a big difficulties in your life. Everyone, have you ever experienced that before in your life? Yes, that is also the same way. Even for me too. For me to, in the beginning, give a mind lecture in front of the few people, it was such a great burden. I was almost breaking down. But now for a couple of years, giving the mind lecture in front of many, many people, now I stand in front of tens and thousands of people. Now I don't break down. I was able to gain that boldness and a strong heart inside of me, even to stand in front of many, many people to give a mind lecture. In the same way, to Mr. Antonio, after he faced such a big difficulties on Andes Mountain, minus 20 degrees Celsius. Everyone, can you imagine minus 20 degrees? That is even colder than your freezers at home. For 72 days, he has gone through that difficulties. When he returned to the society and faced the difficulties and the burdens, now those difficulties and the burdens in the society could no longer be the difficulties and the burden to him. So we asked another question. Now, what are the 16 survivors doing right now? What are they doing right now? And Mr. Antonio, he gave us an answer. He said, we are all now in important positions in different fields. Some of their colleagues became the presidential candidate. Some of them even became a doctor, and some of them became MC of the broadcasting studio. So now all of them, those survivors, 16 survivors, they all became the successful people. How were they able to become the successful people? Their minds and their hearts became strong. So whenever they collide with the burdens and difficulties in life, now with that strong heart and the strong mind, instead of running away from that difficulties and the burden, they lived the life of colliding with the difficulties and burden and overcoming the difficulties and burden. Now by that, their heart was able to become strong and able to have the successful life. Many people think, in order for me to become a successful person, I need to make a lot of money. Is there anyone who believes so? Yes, you need money so that you can buy food, you can buy a car, you can buy a house. But many people think that in order for me to become a successful person, I need to make a lot of money. And I say that that is wrong. In order for you to become a successful person, yes, money is important, but money is not everything. If you have a weak heart and a weak mind, then you are going to be a person who is going to be controlled by money. So in order for you to make a lot of money now, when the money tells you to kill your parents, then nowadays the youth, they can even kill their parents for money. Is that right? I don't know about India. Also in Kenya, I hear a lot of news about something like that. Everyone, if you do not have the strong mind to control money, then instead you are going to live the life where you are controlled by money. So that's why before we even have money for our success, it is very important for us to have the strong heart and the strong mindset so that we don't live the life of being controlled by money, so that we can control money and we can control our life. Everyone, in Japan, I'll give you another story. In Japan, and there is a bay. You see this on the map, there is the red colored place, right? And that is a place called Aomori. Aomori is a bay where Aomori is very famous with apples. And in 1991, around that area of Aomori, and there was a big storm. And then 2/3 of the production had fallen down and only 1/3 of the production remained. So these farmers, they were in much difficulties because usually the farmers, I don't know how many of you have a farm before, most of the farmers, and they do the farming for one whole year, and they leave one whole year from the earnings of that 1 year, one harvest, right? So these farmers in Japan in Aomori Bay, and they also did the farming, and they were expecting to make a lot of money so that they make a living with that harvest. But now because of this storm, 2/3 of the production has fallen down, and only 1/3 of the production remained on the tree. So all the farmers, they were crying, and they were in much difficulties, and they were having a lot of problems in their hearts. So as you see from this picture was taken that time during the Aomori Bay when all the production had fallen down. So all the people, they gathered together trying to find a solution, how to go through these difficulties and for them to survive for 1 year. And so all of them, they were having difficulties and crying. But all of a sudden, out of those colleague farmers, one farmer stood up and said, "Our colleague farmers, until when are we only going to cry looking at the apples that have fallen down on the ground? Now it is time for us to stand up and find the solution and find a way and search for the way." And then they began to have a discussion together and came up with an idea. They decided to put a sticker on the apple. Everyone, do you also put a sticker on the apple in India? Have you seen an apple where you put a sticker on the apple, the food that you eat? Oh, you do. In Kenya, we don't put any sticker on the apple. Yes, if you put the sticker on the apple, on the food, they would think very strange. But now they decided to put a sticker on the apple like this. Everyone, when you look at this apple and you see the stickers, right? Let me show you another picture. This is a better sticker. When you look at these stickers, there is one picture on top, right? What does this look like? Yes, this looks like a graduation cap, isn't it? Yes, graduation cap. Everyone, during that time in 1991, when there was a big storm and 2/3 of the apples have fallen, and that was the time for I don't know what you call it in India, but it is like university entrance exam for high school students. And when you also take exam, right? High school students take the last exam, and so that with that exam result, and they go to the university. So it's a very important exam. And in 1991, when this storm came and this happened, that was the time when the students were preparing for the exam. So these people in Aomori Bay, they discussed and they began to search for the way, and they decided to collide with this burden and the problem. And when they came and they discussed together, they came up with an idea of putting the sticker on the apple. And on this apple, in Japanese, it is written, "Past exam apple." Past exam apple. So they began to market and advertise to the people saying that if you buy this apple and your children eat this apple, they will be lucky enough to pass the exam and for the entry exam for the university. Is there anyone who is a mother here? Now, when your children are taking for the university preparation exam, would you buy such an apple like this? You never know, right? Maybe eating this apple, your children will be lucky enough to go to the good university. So they even raised the price of this apple 10 times. They raised the price of this apple 10 times. And then they began to sell the apple to the students, targeting the mothers and the students who are about to take the exam. And on that season, they were able to make 3 times more profit than the normal season. So with 1/3 of the production, they were able to make 3 times more profit than the normal season. And since 1991 until today, our Mori Bay apples are known as the past exam apple. And even until now, every time when the students are taking the exam, they buy these very expensive apples and they eat this apple. Don't ask me whether they have passed the exam or not, but anyways, they eat it. And now the farmers in Mori, they are also now living, they became very rich and they were able to overcome this situation. Everyone, at first, when the storm came in Aomori region of Japan, they all thought that this was a curse. They all thought that this was a big problem that they are facing. They thought that their farming business have completely collapsed. However, there was that one person whose mindset was a little bit different. He said, our farmers, until when are we only going to look at the situation and blame the situation? Let us stop crying and let us search for another way so that we can search for the way to come out of this situation. Now he was having a strong mind and a strong heart. His mind and his heart did not only collapse in this situation, and then he began to turn his eyes and then he began to search for the way, believing that if you search for the way, there is always the way. Everyone, when we face those kind of situations and problems, there are those people who just completely collapse before that difficulties and situation. However, on the other hand, there are those people who decides to collide with these difficulties and the burden. But when you collide with the difficulties and the burdens, you got to remember one thing. There is always the way. And when you start colliding with that difficulties and the burden with that mindset, now you start finding the way and you start seeing the solution. And not only that, your heart also grows stronger and stronger and stronger. I didn't know, but in this situation, when you collide, there is a way like this. And from next time, when another difficulties come, when another burdens come, and now you think in a different way. Last time, when there was a storm, and instead of running away from the difficulties, there was the way. Also this time, let me collide once again. And you gain that boldness and then the strength and the energy for you to collide again and again, and you are able to overcome that burdens and difficulties. Let me give you another example that has happened also in South Korea. Everyone, I come from South Korea, and in South Korea, and there was a president called President Park. Right now, the one who is sitting on the center, he's the President Park. Now, he has that passion and patriotic heart wanting to really make South Korea a beautiful nation and a rich nation. When he was the president, this was the generation of my grandfather, my grandmother, and my father's generation. And in 1960s and 1970s, still there were many people who were starving to death and many people that were starving. And during this time, President Park, he was in the presidency, and then his goal was to develop South Korea to become one of the beautiful and rich nation. With that patriotic heart, he went around, began to borrow money from other countries so that he may bring up the country. And one day, he received a project from the Middle East, especially more specifically from Saudi Arabia, so that South Korea government will come to Saudi Arabia and do the construction work. So right now, these people who are standing around the President Park, they are the cabinet secretaries, the ministers. So he called the ministers and told the ministers to go and visit Saudi Arabia to see whether the construction that we are about to do is possible or not. Now, when these ministers visited Saudi Arabia, to do the construction in Saudi Arabia was completely impossible. Is there anyone who has visited Saudi Arabia before? Anyone who went to Saudi Arabia? Yes, so Saudi Arabia is really hot. I know India is also very hot, right? But also Saudi Arabia, very hot, is a complete desert country that you can even imagine, as you see on the picture. And it's really hot. During the summer season, when the temperature goes up, temperature can even reach up to 50 degrees and 60 degrees Celsius. So what happened if you do the construction work at that weather? Yes, you can even die of that heat, right? So these ministers, they returned to the president and gave a report to the president. His Excellency, the president, it is impossible for us to do the construction in Saudi Arabia. The president, he was so angry. Why do you say that it's impossible? You know, if we do the construction work in the Middle East of Saudi Arabia, then we can make a lot of US dollar. And with the US dollar, we can build roads, build highways, build the buildings, and we can develop our country. Why are you saying that it's impossible? His Excellency, Saudi Arabia is a complete desert country. Number one reason why it's impossible is because Saudi Arabia is a desert country. It is too hot. If you do the construction in that weather, our people can die. That's why it's impossible. Number two, Saudi Arabia to do the construction there is completely impossible. And because Saudi Arabia is a desert, what is the thing that they don't have? They don't have water, right? In desert countries, they don't have a lot of water. But if you want to do the construction and build buildings, you got to have a lot of water. But there is no water. So that's why it is impossible. And number three, it is impossible because Saudi Arabia is a stronghold of Muslim country. They don't allow any alcohol in that country. But I'm sorry, but South Koreans, they drink a lot of beer and alcohol. Do you also, India people drink alcohol? You don't, right? Yes, I thought so. In Kenya, people, they drink a lot also. But also South Korea, people, they drink a lot, especially people who does a lot of construction work, right? After doing the hard work, they must always drink alcohol, always to cool down themselves. So because of these three reasons, they said it's impossible. The weather is too hot, it's impossible. There is no water to do the construction, so it is impossible. And then it is impossible because there's no alcohol in that country. Our workers are going to die without drinking alcohol. So that's why it is impossible. I told you in the beginning, right? Those are people who are having the weak mind and the weak heart. What is the word that they always say? It is impossible. It is impossible. I can't. It is difficult. People with a weak mind, when they collide with the problem, they always say, it's impossible. It is difficult. I can't. Now, also these ministers, they're all doctors, PhD doctors, that they were very educated people, but their mind was still very weak. So when they collided with this impossible situation, they said, His Excellency the President, this is impossible for us to do the construction. They were only saying it's impossible. So that's why now the president called this man here on the picture. His name is Mr. Jung Ju-young. He is the founder and the CEO of Hyundai Company. Everyone have ever heard about Hyundai vehicles? Yeah, so Hyundai is the company that makes the vehicle. Every 42 seconds, one whole brand new car comes out. So this founder of Hyundai Company, Mr. Jung Ju-young, he was known as a man who did not know the word impossible. He hated that word impossible. He always believed that if you collide with the impossible, there is always the way. So he was having the strong heart, right? So Mr. Jung Ju-young, president called Mr. Jung Ju-young and proposed to him, Mr. Jung Ju-young, I sent the cabinet ministers to go to Saudi Arabia to check whether we are able to do the construction or not over there. But the cabinet ministers, they said that it's impossible. They said it's impossible because of the weather. They said it's impossible because they don't have the water. They said it's impossible because there is no beer, there's no alcohol for the people to drink while they're doing the construction. So why don't you go to Saudi Arabia, and then if you say that it's impossible, then I will give up. That's what he said. So Mr. Chung Ju-young, he visited Saudi Arabia, the same place that the cabinet minister had visited, and he also came back. Everyone, do you think he gave a report saying that it's possible or it's impossible? Yes, Mr. Chung Ju-young, he came back and reported to the president. His Excellency, to do the construction in Saudi Arabia is very possible. Actually, Saudi Arabia has all the good conditions for us to do the construction. And now the president was so surprised. What, Mr. Chung? You saying Saudi Arabia has all the good conditions for us to do the construction? How is that possible? The weather there is even 50 degrees Celsius. How can you do the construction in that weather? His Excellency, Saudi Arabia is a desert country. That's why during the day, the weather is very hot. But at night, the weather becomes very cool. Sometimes it's even cold because it's a desert country. So during the day, when the temperature goes up to 50 degrees, our workers can sleep in the room, in the air-conditioned room, and take a rest. And then in the evening, when the weather becomes cold, when the weather becomes cool, we can do the construction. Everyone, is it possible or impossible? It's possible, right? Yes, it is possible. And then President, he asked, that place is a desert and they don't have any water. What are you going to do about the water? How can you do the construction with water? His Excellency, Saudi Arabia is a desert and therefore it has all the conditions for us to do the construction. Saudi Arabia is a desert, so wherever you go, you can easily find sand to do the construction, right? And not only that, Saudi Arabia is located next to the sea. So we can bring in all the seawater, and this is called desalination plant, where they bring all the seawater and we can filter the seawater and use that filtered water as a drinkable water and also to do the construction. But as you all know, seawater cannot be filtered. How are you going to filter that seawater? During that time, Mr. Chung Ju-young, he owned the steel company. Now, in order for you to make something with the steel, you need to put the steel in a hot furnace, right? So when that hot block of iron steel comes out from the furnace, he needed to instantly cool the steel. So he put that red hot block steel into the seawater. When you put the hot steel into the seawater, what happens? The steam comes up, right? And the steam comes up. That steam, that vapor is pure H2O. So the salt and the sodium cannot be vapor. That's why they all sink on the bottom. And they only collect that steam and they use that steam as the drinkable water and they use that water for the construction. So Mr. Chung Ju-young, he said, that is not a problem at all, His Excellency. Saudi Arabia, they have plenty of sand to do the construction and they have plenty of water at the sea. Saudi Arabia is located next to the sea, so we can use all that sea water for the construction and use that water for the drinkable water. Everyone, is it possible or is it impossible? It's very possible, right? Yes, if you search for the way, there is always the way. People with a strong heart, people with a strong mind, people who ever collided with the difficulties and the burdens. They are the people who has the strong heart and the strong mind, and they always search for the way in the impossibles. So Mr. Chung Ju-young, he said it's very possible, And with this seawater, they did the water pipe construction in Saudi Arabia. And you see how this, each pipe is even bigger than a lorry, right? And the huge truck. They connected this huge water pipe more than 1,800 kilometers. So basically, they planted this water pipe system all over Saudi Arabia. And now Saudi Arabia doesn't have any shortage of water. And it was a desert. Yes. So they did this more than 1,800 kilometer water pipe construction. And even until today, and they are using plenty of water in the desert country. So Mr. Jung Ji-young, he is a man who doesn't know the word impossible in his life. And then, ta-da, now they came up with such a beautiful city like this. Mr. Jung Ji-young had asked, then what about the beer? They don't have alcohol and they don't allow beer. What are you going to do about that? His Excellency, that's why it gets even better to do the construction in Saudi Arabia. What? They don't have beer and they don't allow alcohol, but it gets better? Yes, because now when they earn money in Saudi Arabia, they are going to receive US dollar, right? But they are not going to waste the money in Saudi Arabia because there's no alcohol, no beer to waste their money in Saudi Arabia. What are the people going to do who went from South Korea? They are going to send all the money back to South Korea. Then South Korea, we are able to make more US dollar. So that's why it gets even better. So now they did this construction and they were able to build such a beautiful city like this. Everyone, those are people who are having the strong mind and the strong heart. Whenever they see the impossible situation and the difficulties, they don't say that it's difficulties. They don't say that it is problem. They don't say and that it is impossible. Instead, when they collide with the difficulties and the burden, those people who are having the strong mind and the strong heart, they continuously collide with the difficulties, collide with the burdens, and as they continuously collide with the difficulties and the burden, their heart becomes stronger and stronger and stronger. The rugby team player, the 16 survivors, because they have gone through such an extreme difficulties and collided with such an extreme difficulties and the problems, when they return to the societies, the problems and the difficulties and the burdens that they had faced could no longer be the difficulties and the burdens. Everyone, also in this society right now, we have COVID-19. Because of COVID-19, we have economical problems. We also have health issues and health problems. And because of that, it brings a lot of mental problems as well. Those are people who are having the weak mind and the weak heart. Before COVID-19, they will only say that, it's difficult. I can't do it because of COVID-19. This is difficult because of COVID-19. I don't have any money and I'm going through difficulties because of COVID-19. Everyone, those are people who are having the weak mind, they would only blame of COVID-19 and you only say that it's difficult. I can't. It's impossible. However, if you want to have a strong mindset, don't only say that it's impossible. Don't only say that I can't. Don't only say that you are difficult because of COVID-19. Everyone, why don't you also stand up and collide with the situation, collide with the burdens. Then you will always find the way. Everyone, why are we having a weak mind and a weak heart? Because whenever the difficulties and the burdens come into our life, we are continuously only thinking about running away from the difficulties and the burden. But I want to tell all of you, in order for you to build the strong mind and the strong heart, all of you, I hope you can stand up and collide. Instead of running away, collide with the burdens and the difficulties. Don't try to start with something big. You can start with something small. With something small burden, small difficulties, you start a practice colliding with it. When you collide with it, you will also see how you are also finding the way. When you collide with it, you will always find the way. Everyone, why don't you repeat after me? If you search for the way, you will find the way. Yes, if you search for the way, there is always the way. You will find a way. But if you just say it's impossible and just stay in the house and say that it's impossible and it's difficult, you will never find a way. And the burden and the difficulties will only grow bigger and bigger. And later on, you will always say, I can't. It's impossible. It is difficult. Everyone, I hope all of you in the midst of COVID-19, I know, and there are many difficulties, not only Kenya, not only in South Korea, not only in India. Actually, this is a world village concern and the problems, right? However, in these big concerns and the problems that we are facing right now, I hope we don't only just say it's impossible, it's difficult, and I can't. I hope all of you can think about a way how to come out of it. Like the Aomori Bay apples, right? When you collide with the difficulties, when you collide with the problems and the burdens, believe that you will also find the solution in the difficulties, and you will also able to have a happy life as well. So I hope all of you take life with the impossibles and difficulties and the burdens and have the strong mind and the strong heart. Thank you very much for listening.
First of all, can you hear me?
Yes.
First of all, thank you very much, Mr. Thomas. And I would like to first thank Dr. Kim for such a wonderful and inspiring presentation. And I must say that I'm sure all the participants who are here will agree with me. It was really mind-opening. So I was thank you for that. And I would like to just add a few points, and which has made me realize after the speech, and especially after the speech, that the power of our mind is immeasurable indeed. And we are not even aware of it sometimes. We take it for granted, right? It can do such remarkable things, and sometimes we are so lost in our own lives and in our problems that we don't even realize that the answer for sometimes just lies with us itself. So it can do some remarkable things, including shaping our health, which is very important in today's COVID situation, and in shaping our overall well-being. So I think I must really thank, first of all, IMEI and KYA for organizing such webinars, because such webinars make us realize what power is there within us too. And I think that is very important. And as you said, nothing is impossible. If if you search for the way, you will always find a way. So thank you very much, Dr. Kim, and thank you, Mr. Thomas, for giving me this opportunity. I think it was a wonderful webinar, and I look forward to more such webinars from your side. Thank you very much.
I congratulate IYF. I congratulate respected Yohan from Nairobi. It was an excellent narration. As Madam said, it has touched the hearts of all of us. And the question is, to make a strong mind and a strong heart, you should all practice it, and preparation is required. So if all of us prepare ourselves, as rightly as the Honorable guest speaker said, there is nothing impossible on this planet. We will be able to do it. I am so happy that IYF, being an organization for the youth, is doing a wonderful work. I congratulate Thomas and Diana for inviting me, for making my remarks. Thank you. Congratulations, Dr. Rohan. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, sir, for coming, and thank you for all the VIPs for attending our lecture. You've taken time to come to our meeting. So, as I always say, because of this corona, one positive thing is that we can invite such people from all over the world without paying for the flight ticket. So, I'm very happy. And so today we learned a very important thing that we have to face difficulties. So I also, we teach many young people. So if you can just tell us, sir, like how to explain or how to tell students who have not faced any difficulties in their life, how to, like, like if they have grown up, they have come to teenage level, or they are around 18, 19 years old. So if they are like, they never faced much difficulties in their life, and they have grown up as emperors or empresses in their own family, how can we start making them to face difficulties or yeah.
Yes, thank you very much for that question. Nowadays, as you have mentioned, children, they grow up in their family like emperors. Yes, I think that expression is very true. Nowadays, all the burdens and difficulties and that the children they have to face, the mother is handling it everything. The father is stealing all the burdens and the difficulties that children also should face and learn how to go over it. Mother does everything. And some children, even though they're like 10 and 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 years old, still mother is feeding them and mother is dressing them and things like that. And so that's why it is very important, especially in IUIF, we also organize the programs and so that our youth can also face these challenges and learn how to also go over them. We also have like a volunteer program as well. We also have a student named J. Paul, and J. Paul is here with me here in Kenya. And while they are here as a volunteer, we also take them to different parts of Kenya so that they also learn how to face challenges and problems as well. And J. Paul also, when he first came to Kenya, he was having a lot of also challenges and difficulties eating ugali. Everyone, do you know what ugali is? Yes, so ugali is, J. Paul, is J. Paul here? J. Paul, please come. Yes, maybe you can even hear from him direct. J. Paul is here. J. Paul, you can say, J. Paul, you can say something.
Hello everyone, my name is Jay Paul. When I came Kenya, I faced a lot of challenges, but through these difficulties, my heart is making more strong. I think why I came Kenya, why I face difficulties like this, but when I facing a lot of difficulties, my heart is very big before, because my family, they feed me a lot. Whatever I wanted, just they gave without I didn't ask them. So when I came to this challenge, when I passing this through these challenges, my heart is very difficult. I'm complaining, but through these challenges, I can know I can get a strong heart also through these challenges. So eating a is very difficult, but it is also one of the challenge to me. So now everything okay. Thank you so much.
Yes, I think already his testimony is already explaining everything. Yes, so I am living with the emperor. I know, but now he was able to overcome all the challenges, and he's also doing well, and also eating ugali well. And are you eating ugali well?
Before I can't.
Yes. Now eating ugali, and yes, there were those challenges. And at first, when J. Paul collided with this new atmosphere, new challenges, and new difficulties, he also had a lot of complaints. But now he was having the strong mind and the strong heart also to go over them. And so in IYF, we have this kind of volunteer program where you come And so I think it's a really a good program where many youngsters also they participate in this kind of program and also do the things that they have never experienced before. And through this, their hearts and the minds also can grow stronger and stronger.
Hi, Director.
How are you?
I'm so
When are you
good.
coming
How are
back?
you?
I heard that you're coming back. Is that
Really?
true?
I did not
I heard that.
I want to come back too.